Chapter 3 Plant Kingdom. In the previous chapter, we looked at the broad classification of living organisms under the system proposed by Whitaker 1969, where he suggested the five kingdom classification with Monera, Protista, Fungi, Animalia, and Plantae. In this chapter, we will deal in detail with further classification within kingdom Plantae, popularly known as the plant kingdom. We must stress here that our understanding of the plant kingdom has changed over time. Fungi and members of Monera and Protista having cell walls have now been excluded from Plantae to earlier classification placed them in the same kingdom. So, the cyanobacteria that are also referred to as blue-green algae are not algae anymore. In this chapter, we will describe algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm and angiosperm. We must stress here that our understanding of the plant kingdom has changed over time. Fungi and members of the Monera and Protista having cell walls have now been excluded from Plantae, though earlier classification placed them in the same kingdom. So the cyanobacteria that are also referred to as blue-green algae are not algae anymore. In this chapter, we will describe algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm and angiosperm under Plantae. Let us also look at classification within angiosperm to understand some of the concerns that influence the classification system. The earliest system of classification used only gross superficial morphological characters such as a habit, color, number, and shape of leaves, etc. They were based mainly on vegetative characters or on the androecium structure system given by Linnaeus. Such systems were artificial. They separated the closely related species since they were based on few characteristics. Also, the artificial system gave equal weightage to vegetative and sexual characteristics. This is not acceptable since we know that often the vegetative characters are more easily affected by environment. As against this, natural classification system developed which were based on natural affinities among the organism and considered not only the external features but also internal features like ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology and phytochemistry. Such a classification for flowering plants was given by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. At present, phylogenetic classification system based on evolutionary relationship between the various organisms are acceptable. This assumes that organisms belonging to the same taxa have a common ancestor. We now use information from many other sources to help resolve difficulties in classification. These became more important when there is no supporting fossil evidence. Numerical taxonomy, which is now easily carried out using computer, is based on all observable characteristics. Number and codes are assigned to all the characters and the data are then processed. In this way, each character is given equal importance and at the same time hundreds of characters now easily carried out using computer is based on all observable characteristics. Number and codes are assigned to all the characters and the data are then processed. In this way, each character is given equal importance and at the same time hundred of characters can be considered. Cytotaxonomy, that is based on cytological information like chromosome numbers, structure, behavior, and chemotaxonomy that uses the chemical constituent of the plant to resolve confusion, are also used by taxonomy these days. Algae. Algae are chlorophyll-bearing simple thalloid, autotrophic and largely aquatic, both freshwater and marine organisms. They occur in a variety of other habitat, moist stones, soils and wood. Some of them also occur in association with fungi, lichen and animal, example in sloth bear. The form and size of algae is highly variable, ranging from colonial form like volvox and the filamentous form like Ulothrix and Spirogyra. Figure 3.1. A few of the marine forms such as kelp form massive plant bodies. The algae reproduce by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. Vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. Each fragment develops into a thallus. Asexual reproduction is by the production of different types of spores, the most common being the zoospores. They are flagellated, motile, and on germination give rise to new plants. Sexual reproduction takes place through fusion of two gametes. These gametes can be flagellated and similar in size as in Ulothrix, or non-flagellated, non-motile, but similar in size as in Spirogyra. Such reproduction is called isogamous. Fusion of two gametes dissimilar in size as in species of Eudrina is termed as anisogamous. Fusion between one large non-motile static female gamete and a smaller motile male gamete is termed oogamous. Volvox. Algae are useful to man in a variety of ways. At least a half of total carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by algae through photosynthesis. Being photosynthetic, they increase the level of dissolved oxygen in their immediate environment. They are of paramount importance as primary producers of energy-rich compounds which form the basis of food cycle of all aquatic animals. Many species of porphyra, laminaria and sargassum are among the 70 species of marine algae used as food. Certain marine brown and red algae produce large amounts of hydrochlorids, water-holding substances, example algin brown algae and carrageenan red algae, which are used commercially. Agar, one of the commercial products obtained from Gelidium and Gastellaria, are used to grow microbes and in preparation of ice creams and jellies. Chlorella, a unicellular alga rich in protein, is used as food supplement even by space travelers. The algae are divided into three main classes: chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae. Chlorophyceae. The member of chlorophyceae are commonly called green algae. The plant body may be unicellular, colonial, or filamentous. They are usually grass green due to the dominance of pigment chlorophyll A and B. The pigments are localized in definite chloroplast. The chloroplast may be discoid, plate-like, reticulate, cup-shaped, spiral, or ribbon-shaped in different species. Most of the members have one or more storage bodies called pyrenoids located in the chloroplast. Pyrenoids contain protein besides starch. Some algae may store food in the form of oil droplet. Green algae usually have a rigid cell wall made up of inner layer of cellulose and outer layer of pectose. Vegetative reproduction usually takes place by fragmentation or a formation of different types of spores. Asexual reproduction is by flagellated zoospores produced in zoosporangia. The sexual reproduction shows considerable variation in the type and formation of sex cells, and it may be isogamous, anisogamous, or oogamous. Some commonly found green algae are Chlamydomonas, Volvox, Eleutheryx, Spirogara, and Phaeophyceae. The member Phaeophyceae or brown algae are found primarily in marine habitats. They show great variation in size and form. They range from simple branched filamentous form ectocarpus to profusely branched form as represented by kelps, which may reach a height of 100 meters. They possess chlorophyll A, C, carotenoid, and xanthophylls. They vary in color from olive green to various shades of brown depending upon the amount of xanthophylл pigment, fucoxanthin present in them. Food is stored as complex carbohydrates, which may be in the form of laminarine and parentenol. The vegetative cells have a cellulosic wall usually covered on the outside by gelatinous coating of algae. The protoplast contain, in addition to plastis, a centrally located vacuole and nucleus. The plant body is usually attached to the substratum by a holdfast and has a stalk, the stipe, and the leaf-like photosynthetic organ, the frond. Vegetative reproduction takes place by fragmentation. Asexual reproduction in most brown algae is by biflagellate zoospores that are pear-shaped and have two unequal laterally attached flagella. Sexual reproduction may be isogamous, anisogamous, or oogamous. Union of gametes may take place in water or within oogamous species. The gametes are pyriform, pear-shaped, and bear two laterally attached flagella. The common forms are ectocarpus, dictyota, laminarium, rhodophyceae. The member of rhodophyceae are commonly called red algae because of the predominance of red pigment R5-erythrin in their body. Majority of the red algae are marine with greater concentration found in the warmer areas. They occur in both well-lighted regions close to the surface of water and also at great depth in the oceans where relatively little light penetrates. The red thalli of most of the red algae are multicellular. Some of them have complex body organization. The food is stored as Floridian starch, which is very similar to a myelopectin and glycogen structure. The red algae usually reproduce vegetatively by fragmentation. They reproduce asexually by non-motile spores and sexually by. Table 3.1 Division of algae and their main characteristics. Classes: Chlorophyceae, common name green algae, major pigment chlorophyll A-B, stored food starch, cell wall cellulose, flagellar number and positions of insertion 2, 8 equal apical, habitat freshwater, brackish water, salt water. Class Phaeophyceae, common name brown algae, major pigment chlorophyll A-C, fucoxanthin, stored food mannitol, laminarine, cell wall cellulose and algine, flagellar number and positions of insertions 2, unequal lateral, habitat freshwater, rare brackish water, salt water. Classes Rhodophyceae, common name red algae, major pigment chlorophyll A, D, phycoerythrin, stored food Floridian starch, cell wall cellulose, pectin and polysulfate ester, flagellar number and positions of insertion absent, habitat freshwater, some brackish water, salt. Gametes. Sexual reproduction is oogamous and accompanied by complex post-fertilization development. The common members are Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria and Gelidium. Bryophytes. Bryophytes include the various mosses and liverworts that are found commonly growing in moist shaded areas in the hills. Bryophytes are also called amphibians of plant kingdom because these plants can live in soil but are dependent on water for sexual reproduction. They usually occur in damp, humid and shaded localities. They play an important role in plant succession or bare rock soil. The plant body of bryophyte is more differentiated than that of algae. It is a thallus-like and prostrate or erect and attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoid. They lack true root, stem or leaves. They may possess root-like, leaf-like, stem-like structure. The main plant body of bryophyte is haploid. It produces gamete, hence is called a gametophyte. The sex organs in bryophytes are multicellular. The male sex organ is called antheridium. They produce biflagellate antherozoid. The female sex organ is called archegonium is flask-shaped and produces a single egg. The antherozoids are released into water where they come in contact with archegonium and an antherozoid fuses with the egg to produce the zygote. Zygote do not undergo reduction division immediately. They produce a multicellular body. The sporophyte is not free living but attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte and derives nourishment from it. Some cells of the sporophyte undergo reduction, division, meiosis to produce haploid spore. These spores germinate to produce gametophyte. Bryophyte in general are of little economic importance, but some mosses provide food for herbaceous mammals, birds and other animals. Species of sphagnum, a moss, provide peat that have long been used as fuel and as packing material for transshipment of living material because of their capacity to hold water. Mosses along with lichen are the first organism to colonize rock and hence are of great ecological importance. They decompose rocks, making the substrate suitable for growth of higher plant. Since mosses form dense mats on the soil, they reduce the impact of falling rain and prevent soil erosion. The bryophytes are liverworts. The liverworts grow usually in moist shaded habitats such as banks of streams, marshy ground, damp soil, bark of trees and deep in the woods. The plant body of a liverwort is thalloid. Example Mercantia. The thallus is a dorsiventral and closely appressed to the substrate. The leafy members have a teeny leaf-like appendages in two rows on the stem-like structures. Asexual reproduction in liverwort takes place by fragmentation of thalli or by the formation of a specialized structure called gyme, singular gyma. Gyme are green multicellular asexual buds which develop in small receptacles called gyma cups located on thalli. The gyma become detached from the parent body and germinate to form a new individual. During sexual reproduction, male and female organs are produced either on the seam or on the difficult thalli. The sporophyte is differentiated into food seta and capsule. After meiosis, spores are produced within the capsule. These spores germinate to form free-living gametophyte, mosses. The predominant stage of the life cycle of a moss is the gametophyte, which consists of two stages. The first stage is the protonema stage, which develops directly from a spore. It is a creeping green branched and frequently filamentous stage. The second stage is the leafy stage, which develops from secondary protonema as a lateral bud. They consist of upright cylindrical axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. They are attached to the soil through multicellular and branch rhizoids. This stage vegetative reproduction in moss is by fragmentation and budding in the secondary protonema. In sexual reproduction, the sex organs Antheridia and Archegonia are produced at the apex of leafy shoots. After fertilization, the zygote develops into sporophyte consisting of a food set and a capsule. The sporophyte in moss is more elaborate than that in liverworts. The capsule contains spores. Spores are formed after meiosis. The mosses have an elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. Common example of moss are Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum, Pteridophyte. The pteridophyte include hostels and fawns. Pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. Evolutionarily, they are the first terrestrial plant to possess vascular tissues, xylem and phloem. You shall study more about these tissues in chapter 6. The pteridophyta are found in cool, damp, shady places, though some may flourish well in. You may recall that in bryophyte the dominant phase in the life cycle is gametophytic plant body. However, in pteridophyte, the main plant body is a sporophyte, which is differentiated into two roots, stem and leaves. These organs possess well-differentiated vascular tissues. The leaves in pteridophyte are small microphyll as in Selagilla or large macrophyll as in fern. The sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. In some cases, sporophylls may form distinct compact structures called strobilual cones. Selaginella equistem. The sporangia produce spore by meiosis in spore mother cell. The spores germinate to give rise to incone species, small but free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. These gametophytes require cool, damp, shady places to grow. Because of this specific restricted requirement and the need for water for fertilization, the spread of living pteridophyte is limited and restricted to narrow geographical region. The gametophyte bear male and female sex organ called Antheridia and Archegonia respectively. Water is required for transfer of antherozoid. The male gamete released from the Antheridia to the mouth of Archegonium. Fusion of male gamete with egg present in Archegonium result in the formation of zygote. Zygote thereafter produces a multicellular well-differentiated sporophyte, which is the dominant phase of the pteridophytes. In majority of the pteridophytes, all the spores are of similar kind. Such plants are called homosporous. Genera like Selagilla and Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spore, macro large and the micro small spores, are known as heterosporous. The megaspore and microspore germinate and give rise to female and male gametophyte, respectively. The female gametophyte in these plants are retained on the parent sporophyte for variable period. The development of zygote into young embryo takes place within the female gametophyte. This event is a precursor to the seed habit, considered as an important step in evolution. The pteridophytes are further classified into four classes: Psilopsida, Psilotum, Lycopsida, Silnagella, Lycopodium, Sphanosida, Equistum, and Teropsida, Dryopetris, Petris, and Adiantum. Gymnosperm. The gymnosperm gymnosnectisperma seeds are plants in which the ovules are not enclosed by any ovary wall and remain exposed. Both before and after fertilization, the seeds that develop post-fertilization are not covered, are naked. Gymnosperms include medium-sized trees or tall trees and shrubs. One of the gymnosperm, the giant redwood tree sequoia, is one of the tallest tree species. The roots are generally taproots. Roots in some genera have fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza, pinus, while in some other cycas, small specialized roots called coralloid roots are associated with nitrogen-fixing cyanobacteria. The stems are unbranched, cycas, and branched, pinus, cedrus. The leaves may be simple or compound. In cycas, the pinnate leaves persist for a few years. The leaves in gymnosperm are well adapted to withstand extreme of temperature, humidity, and wind. In conifer, the needle-like leaves reduce the surface area. Their thick cuticle and sunken stomata also help. The gymnosperms are heterosporous. They produce haploid microspores and megaspore. The two kinds of spores are produced within sporangia that are borne on sporophylls, which are arranged spirally along an axis to form lax or compact strawberry or cones. The strawberry-bearing microsporophylls and microsporangia are called microsporangiate or male strawberry. The microspore develop into a male gametophytic generation which is highly reduced and is confined to only a limited number of cells. This reduced gametophyte is called a pollen grain. The development of pollen grain takes place within the microsporangia. The cones bearing megasporophylls with ovules or megasporangia are called macrosporangiate or female strawberry. The male or female cone or strawberry may be born on the same tree, pinus. In cycas, male cones and megasporophylls are born on different trees. The megaspore mother cell is differentiated from one of the cells of the nucellus. The nucellus is protected by envelopes and the composite structure is called an ovule. The ovule are born on megasporophyll which may be clustered to form the female cone. The megaspore mother cell divides meiotically to form four megaspores. One of the megaspore enclosed within the megasporangium develops into multicellular female gametophyte that bears two or more archegonia or female sex organ. The multicellular female gametophyte is also retained within megaspore. Unlike bryophyte and pteridophyte, in gymnosperm, the male and the female gametophyte do not have an independent free-living existence. They remain within the sporangia retained on the sporophyte. The pollen grain is released from the microsporangium. They are carried in air currents and come in contact with the opening of the ovules born on the megasporophylls. The pollen tube carrying the male gametes grows towards archegonia in the ovules and discharge their content near the mouth of the archegonia. Following fertilization, zygote develops into an embryo and the ovules into seed. The seeds are angiosperm. Unlike the gymnosperm, where the ovules are naked, in the angiosperm or flowering plant, the pollen grain and ovules are developed in the specialized structure called flowers. In angiosperm, the seeds are enclosed in fruits and the fruit. The angiosperms are an exceptionally large group of plants occurring in a wide range of habitat. They range in size from the smallest wolfia to tall trees of eucalyptus over 100 meters. They provide us with food, fodder, fuel, medicine, and several other commercially important products. They are divided into two classes, the dicotyledons and the monocotyledons. Summary. Plant kingdom include algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm, and angiosperm. Algae are chlorophyll-bearing simple thalloid autotrophic and largely aquatic organism. Depending on the type of pigment possessed and the type of stored food, algae are classified into three classes, namely chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae, and rhodophyceae. Algae usually reproduce vegetatively by fragmentation, asexually by formation of different types of spores, and sexually by the formation of gamete, which may show isogamy, anisogamy, or oogamy. Bryophytes are plants which can live in soil but are dependent on water for sexual reproduction. Their plant body is more differentiated than that of algae. It is thallus-like and prostrate or erect and attached to the substrate by rhizoids. They possess root-like, leaf-like, and stem-like structure. The bryophyte is divided into liverwort and mosses. The plant body of liverwort is thalloid and dorsiventral, where mosses have upright cylindrical axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. The main plant body of bryophyte is gamete producing and is called a gametophyte. It bears the male sex organ called antheridia and a female sex organ called archegonia. The male and female gamete fuse to form zygote, which produces a multicellular body called a sporophyte. It produces haploid spores. The spores germinate to form gametophyte. In pteridophyte, the main plant is a sporophyte which is differentiated through root, stem, and leaves. These organs possess well-differentiated vascular tissue. The sporophytes bear sporangia which produces spore. The spores germinate to form a gametophyte which require cool, damp places to grow. The gametophyte bear male and female sex organ called antheridia and archegonia, respectively. Water is required for transfer of male gamete to archegonia, where zygote is formed after fertilization. The The gymnosperm are the plants in which ovules are not enclosed by any ovary wall. After fertilization, the seeds remain exposed and therefore these plants are called naked seeded plants. The gymnosperm produce microspores and megaspores which are produced in the microsporangia and megasporangia borne on the sporophylls. The sporophylls, microsporophylls and megasporophylls are arranged spirally on axis to form male and female cone respectively. The pollen grain germinates and pollen tube releases the male gamete into the ovule where it fuses with the egg cell in the archegonia. Following fertilization, the zygote develops into embryo and the ovules into seeds. The angiosperm are divided into two classes, the dicotyledons and the monocotyledons.